2, 1. So, Jets, big game on Monday night. They beat the Falcons on Monday Night Football. It was an amazing football game, no matter what your rooting interest was. Great football all around from both teams, really. I mean, both teams had their faults. Both teams played very well, but the Jets came out on top. I'm very happy about that. I did not pick them to win. I did not expect Geno Smith to have the type of game that he had, but I'm very glad that he did because it was a hell of a game to watch. What more can I say about Geno Smith other than the fact that he played an amazing game on Monday Night Football? He goes 16 for 20, throws for 80% very efficiently, 199 yards. When you're throwing the ball efficiently like that, and then for only throwing it 20 times, if you throw for 200 yards, it's not really the yards that matter at that point. You're not going to put up 400 yards unless you're throwing it 40 times. 200 yards, it's good enough. You don't need the yardage. But what really gets you is the 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, no fumbles, and no turnovers. It proved to me that he's our quarterback for the future. I know on a week-to-week basis, it's very hard to judge Geno Smith. It seems like we so far this season we've alternated wins and losses, but the wins show me a lot and the losses also show me a lot, but you can take a lot more from the wins because he is a rookie quarterback. So when he has awful games like the one he had last week in Tennessee, you gotta kind of throw those out the window. And within the last 2 weeks, you had a worst case scenario kind of game and a best case scenario kind of game. Worst case scenario, he turns the ball over 4 times, leaves the defense out to dry, 28 points off turnovers. Jets don't even come close to winning the game. It's a debacle, and everybody's like, got their throwing their hands up in the air. We need Geno Smith out of there. He's not our quarterback of the future. Blah blah blah. Awful game. What are we gonna do? We're gonna get rolled by the Falcons next week. At least that's what I was out crying. Then he goes on Monday Night Football against a perennial football team, a perennial playoff football team, on the road, without his best receiver, off of a horrible loss in Tennessee on the road, with the whole world watching, and he wins a football game. Not only did he win the football game, but he set the defense up in the fourth quarter. He put him up 2 scores, and then the defense let him down and gave up the lead, and then he bailed the defense out with a game-winning 2-minute drill, set Nick Folk up for a game-winning field goal, and the Jets win. That's the best case kind of scenario. He's got ice in his veins. I can see it in his face. He's emotionless, which is good for a quarterback. You see Eli Manning, you see Peyton Manning out when he's doing his thing, no facial movement. It's just all in the head. He's making the connections in his brain. What receiver do I throw to? What reads? What the defense is doing. He leaves his emotion out of it, and he just plays football. And that's what I really liked about Geno's performance. With the worst case scenario and the best case scenario, you can take more out of the best case scenario than the worst case scenarios. Because with a rookie quarterback, you're going to have the 4 turnover games on the road in the rain against a pretty good Tennessee defense. That stuff's going to happen. But when you're building towards the future, you got to look at games like on Monday night, and that shows me what he's capable of. He was the first rookie quarterback to throw for 3 touchdowns on Monday Night Football since Dan Marino. That's very impressive. These kind of performances are worth a lot more to me than the 4 turnover performances. The game-winning, he's already had 3 game-winning drives already this season, all 3 wins. Now, the first one, you kind of have to credit the Tampa Bay Bucks because they pushed him out of bounds, kind of handed it to him, baby-fed him the win, but hey, he put us in position, and we still won the game. There's a win on our record, is it not? It is. In Buffalo, he was playing very well. The defense let up the lead again. It was 2020. and then he throws a strike to Santonio Holmes on the sideline for the game-winning score. Defense holds up the rest of the game. That's number 2. Then, in week 3, he goes up 27-13. Defense lets up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and leaves him with less than 2 minutes to take the ball down the field. Now, he was set up very well by Rex Ryan, who did not have to use timeout, which may also be credit to Morning and Geno Smith for knowing the plays they want to call and having good clock management. They had 3 timeouts, less than 2 minutes, and they only had to go about 50 yards downfield to kick a field goal instead of having to score a touchdown, and he was able to do that. He went 4 for 4 on the final drive, and they ran the clock out, and they did very well, and I'm very proud of them. When we just look at the offense in general, they ran 46 plays, 24 were pass plays, 22 were rushes, which means you had a balanced attack, which means you're not relying on Geno to throw the ball downfield. They didn't have very many 3rd and longs that I can remember, so you're not forcing Geno to make throws he doesn't have to. The run game helped set him up. They had a bunch of different guys rush for over 30 yards. Bilal Powell was very accountable. He was able to get, he didn't have any rushes for losses, so every time he touched the ball, it's 3-4 yards, which, hey, you're not Adrian Peterson. He's not going to break off 80-yard runs. Or, he might not have a 40-yard run where he's going to blow past everybody, but Rex Ryan says he's one of the most underrated running backs in the league, and I can see why, because he fought for the yardage, he held on to the ball, and helped Geno Smith out a lot by establishing the fact that they could run the ball a couple yards downfield, which makes a defense at least think about the run game so that it opens up the pass game for Geno. So Bilal Powell had a very good game. Marty Morningway called a great game, especially during the 2-minute drill. He called safe throws for Geno. They just marched down the field. The Falcons didn't really look like they could stop them at all. They were bringing in several diverse play calls and personnel switches. It confused the Falcons' defense. When you put on people in formations that the Falcons haven't seen before, then they got to communicate. Who's covering who? Where are you on the field? I need help over here. You got to stay over there. It causes confusion and it opens up holes. And Geno Smith picked the Falcons' defense apart. They put up 30 points. On rookie quarterback putting up 30 points on your defense is a bad sign. Well, not for the Jets, obviously, for the Falcons. Geno stepped up in the pocket and delivered accurate throws all night. He threw for 80%, which was great. 2 of his touchdowns were perfect throws to the tight ends. His first touchdown was to Jeff Cumberland. It was kind of, he faded it. Jeff Cumberland was in the middle of 3 defenders coming from, almost like all points on a triangle coming towards him. And the bottom one was, in between Geno and Jeff Cumberland, and Geno just put it right over the defender's head, put it right where only Jeff Cumberland could catch it, right at the goal line, and he held on to it. It was a perfect throw, 20-yard touchdown, which means, it was 25, 30-yard throw, which means there's got to be some air under it. And there's potential it's going to get picked off because it's downfield, but it was a great throw by Geno. I was, very stoked when he caught it, and it was a touchdown, and we went up 10-7, 10-7, took the lead. And then in the end of the fourth quarter, they ran a spider 2-wide banana, as John Gruden called it on Monday Night Football. I don't know. I don't have anywhere near the football knowledge that John Gruden has and how he knows the names of the Jet plays. I'm sure it's not what it is in the Jet playbook, but that's what he called it. It was a play-action scramble. Geno scrambles to the right. Most of his receivers are running parallel to him, kind of on the right. And he just, put a little bit of touch, threw it in the corner of the end zone for Kellen Winslow. It was right on target. Winslow didn't have to jump or anything. Was able to get 2 feet in very cautiously and, with purpose. And there was, no need for review. It was a touchdown, 27-13, and it looked like there was some trouble in Atlanta. However, the defense played great all game except until the fourth quarter. I don't know what it is about Rex Ryan's defenses, but they'll play great a whole game. But if you're not winning by a couple touchdowns or more, they're going to let up maybe 1 or 2, kill you, and just give up the lead. It happened a couple times. They did it to Tim Tebow. when he was on the Broncos. They shut Tebow down the whole game, and then somehow Tebow drives down 80 yards and caps it off with like a 30-yard rush for a touchdown and just breaks the Jets' backs. However, as bad as they played in the fourth quarter, they were awesome in the beginning of the game. The first drive, they should have had a pick six. Right off the bat, he throws it in, I want to say it was Walls' hands, the nickel back or maybe the dime back in the set for the defense at that point. He threw it right into his hands and he dropped it. It was an easy pick six. Falcons go on to punt. I believe the very next play was a punt, and the Jets blocked it. The Falcons picked it up and advanced it. Well, I mean, it went, more backfield, and then they advanced it a couple yards, but it was still blocked punt. It was still good for momentum. The Jets ended up getting a field goal after that drive. Rex still called a great game. At the end of the second half, they had a goal line stand that seemed to take forever, and it was kind of like at an all cost. It was at least 5 consecutive plays within the 5-yard line. At one point, they just flat out tackled Tony Gonzalez on fourth down in the end zone so that he couldn't catch the ball. Now, it did result as a penalty, but it didn't matter at that point because there was 1 second left, so it was do or die anyway, and they stopped him again. Jacquizz Rodgers ran right into a stone wall of Jet defenders. The best rush defense in football. You're not going to go right up the middle on them on the goal line. Jets go into the locker room with a lot of momentum. Rex is stoked. You can see it on the sideline. So that definitely helped the Jets win. I mean, you stop the touchdown. They didn't go for a field goal. You hold them scoreless. They don't even settle for a field goal because they went for it and missed. And that was huge because that ended up being the difference in the game, at least. If the Falcons at least kick a field goal, the Jets have to go down the field and score a touchdown. So the game could be very different if not for that goal line stand in the fourth quarter. The individual performances on the defense, I got to say that Muhammad Wilkerson is a great defensive lineman. Watch out. I think that he is going to make a name for himself this year. Even John Gruden said that watch out for him on the Pro Bowl ballot this year. And when John Gruden says something, you should listen because personally, I think that he's one of the smartest minds of football. You listen to him talk football, and it's like another language. He's like Richard Dawkins of football almost. It's incredible. He's got, and I'm sure that that knowledge is widespread throughout the league, but the way that he delivers it, he can almost explain it to you like he's 5 years old, and it makes me feel like I know something about football, the way that he talks about it. So when he says that Muhammad Wilkerson is someone you should watch out for, it's not news to me because I've been looking out, and I know that Muhammad Wilkerson is a great player, but now that they played on Monday Night Football and he has a strip sack of Matt Ryan and 7 other tackles, a sack, and 2 tackles for a loss, more people are going to know Mo Wilk is legitimate. He's at least this year, I think. On the way that the defense is playing in the run game for the Jets right now, is holding up rushing, like running backs to the lowest rush yards per game in the league right now. You watch out for him on the Pro Bowl ballot. And at the same time, David Harris better be a Pro Bowler this year or I'm going to freak. He had 14 tackles on Monday Night Football. All over the field. One of the most underrated players in football. Nobody ever talks about him. He had over 100 tackles last year. And he's on pace again to have another 100 tackle season. So and now Ray Lewis isn't playing. I don't know a better middle linebacker than David Harris right now. Well, at least in the AFC. Patrick Willis is a monster, but he plays all the way on the other side of the country. Like I said, David Harris, Mo Wilk, all components of the best rush defense in the league. Second best. Technically, Denver has let up the least rushing yards per game, but that is a misleading statistic because everybody is throwing against the Broncos trying to keep up with Peyton Manning. At the same time, the Broncos have the best rushing yards per game, quote-unquote, defense, but the worst passing yards because everybody's passing against the Broncos because they're trying to keep up with Peyton Manning. So it doesn't really resemble how good the rush defense of the Broncos is. However, people do run on the Jets because they're close games, but they're not actually running on them because they're not getting anywhere. They're getting stuffed behind the line of scrimmage by Harrison, Copels, David Harris running through the line of scrimmage and just knocking people out on the other side. Wilkerson coming around and forcing fumbles. The rush defense is legitimate, and they get to the quarterback. They stop your running game, and they're going to win a lot of games for the Jets this year. The Falcons had no run game on Monday Night Football. The Jets defense, like I said, they're going to win us a lot of games. Jets even won the special teams battle on Monday night. They had a block punt that set them up with the momentum. They set the tone early, ended up getting a field goal off of that. Clyde Gates and Jeremy Curley now, they put us in good position. They didn't have any touchdowns, but, they didn't fumble. Not too many. They had a couple fair catches, but their job is to make sure that they don't at least fumble the ball. They're going to catch it, and you got to make good calls on whether or not you're going to let it roll to the end zone or fair catch it if you think the defense is going to stop it at the 1-yard line. But, as long as there's nothing to report badly from the special teams, then they did a good job. And Nick Folk, the kicker, is solid. Very underrated part of the team. Excuse me. I sneezed. Excuse me, I did not want to do that, but I had to. Anyway, Nick Folk, a great kicker for the Jets of recent. He's 8 of 8 on the year. I think he's 9 of 9 now that he kicked that game-winning field goal. But he's very consistent. Kicking the ball out of the end zone every single time on kickoffs. There's twice this year where we set him up for a game-winning field goal, and he killed both of them. And there weren't exactly chip shots either of them. They're both over 30 yards, and both high pressure kicks, and he made both of them. When you can't really ask any more than that from a kicker, is make it the field goals. Is he allowed to miss one every once in a while? If he misses a 47-yarder in the beginning of a game, I'll give him a break. You can't make every single one. But when he needs to, and he has to, he's made the field goals, and that's all you can ask for him. Next week, on Sunday, the Jets play the Steelers, and I know that every week I am either really high on the Jets or really low on the Jets. This week I'm actually really high on the Jets on winning because they're playing the Steelers, who are 0-5, and they're similar to the Giants, where they don't have a very good offensive line or a run game. Their defense is somewhat mediocre. So, at least by my calculations, they have the worst running game in the league, and the Jets have the best run defense. That's just a bad matchup for the Steelers. They're going to be throwing, and it'll be tough to bring Ben Roethlisberger down, but the Jets should, if they can beat the Steelers and the Patriots lose to the Saints, that means that the Patriots come in to the Meadowlands and the Jets are going to have to beat them for first place. And if we can beat the Steelers, go on and get on a little bit of a win streak, get some momentum, I think that we can beat the Patriots also, because the Patriots have not been playing as well as their record indicates. When we come back in a little bit, we're going to talk the Giants and what's gone wrong with their season. We're going to take a PSA break.
Happy holidays, everybody. I'm Brian McKnight for RAD, recording artists, actors, and athletes.